Hi and welcome back to Behind the Scenes with me, Sandra Frilund, and this is episode 2. Well, in my free subjects today, I start with pets, and I want to talk a little bit about the idea of ordinary cats. I wonder, is there such a thing as an ordinary cat? I would say no, but there are, I believe, a large number of people out there who would probably disagree quite a bit with me. In Sweden in the 70s, and in the 80s, people in general talked about what in English I think would be called farm cats. It's not cats living at a farm, no, but ordinary cats with a very mixed and often unknown background. Even though Wikipedia describes farm cats this way. The farm cat, also known as a barn cat, is a domestic cat, usually of mixed breed, that lives primarily out of doors in a feral or semi-feral condition and on agriculture properties, usually sheltering in outbuildings. Well, this is not what I mean, but that is how Wikipedia describes it. The Swedish word for it is bondkatter. But not so long ago, I learned that there is a type of cat that's called tabby, and which I think most resembles the idea of a bondkatt, farm cat. But then again, maybe not, because those, at least when I grew up, were often striped all over without the classical M sign on the cat's forehead between the eyes that's associated with tabbies. We have 2 tabby cats, but one of them has extra toes on every paw. It's very cute, but not very normal, I think. Anyways, so what is an ordinary cat then? Well, maybe just all of them who doesn't have a pedigree and are purebred. Well, I wouldn't like to have one of those because I would be afraid something would happen to it, and those normally cost a lot of money. And speaking of that, just this past week, a person from this town I live in, a very small town, had an ad out on Facebook about wanting to sell 2 purebred Bengal kittens for 1,100 euros. Of course, they would cost, I know that, but I wouldn't dare letting them out in these neighborhoods with all the tractors and farm vehicles driving around. No, I don't even think I would let them out in the city. I would just keep the purebreds inside. Anyways, I hope these 2 kittens get a very good home though. Next, crimes. Yeah, crimes. There are so many fascinating crime solutions to choose from. So I had kind of a hard time picking out one this week to talk about. So I thought, why not talk about the many different ways the solutions are found? So why not start at the beginning with witness statements? Well, many years ago, people really believed witnesses, often without question. But as time goes by and other types of evidence start to emerge, eyewitness accounts is not all that reliable. Because the mind is a very complicated thing. Sometimes the mind can play tricks on you. If your emotions feel terror, for instance, then your memory often saves just bits and pieces and make you remember the things that is closest connectable with a reference in your own experience. And that is not always a true witness account. Then there was this news about fingerprints. And that is still a very good source of evidence because even twins have separate fingerprints. Yeah. So, to get good fingerprints from a crime scene or a victim is fantastic. Then, of course, there is this thing about finding the person behind the prints, which is not always so easy. Of course, if the person is in a sort of a register, if, for instance, police register or anywhere else, then you will find it, but normally it's not that easy. Anyways, and then we have this thing called blood trace evidence. Well, when I was in high school back in the early and mid 80s, there was a lot of focus in general on what blood type one had. If you had A minus, A plus, B minus, B plus, AB minus, AB plus, or O negative or O positive. And I remember that specifically because they said minus and plus for A, B, AB, but not for O. And there was this negative and positive. I never could understand that, but that's the way our teacher told us. Anyways, then came the miracle of DNA. Yes. First, for a long, long time, most people just assumed and talked about human blood DNA. And that was it, basically. But as time goes by, more and more sources produce DNA, and scientists find ways to find it and use it in different circumstances, like in animals and plants, for instance. In my last episode, I talked about Snowball the cat and how his first DNA helped bring down a killer. I have also watched on TV, I think it was the Forensic Files, about how a plant DNA helped solve a very difficult case that was almost deemed unsolvable. And it has also been found in little sea animals that one can hardly see with the naked eye. And so it's very fascinating how the scientists in different fields can actually find these things and help bring down a criminal. So that's very fantastic, I think. Well, I will go on to the field of mental health and flashbacks. Yes, this time in this section, I would like to talk a little bit about flashbacks, what it is and what it is not. Well, again, according to Wikipedia, it says like this. A flashback or involuntary recurrent memory is a psychological phenomenon in which an individual has a sudden, usually powerful re-experiencing of a past experience or elements of a past experience. These experiences can be happy, sad, exciting, or of any other emotion one can consider. The term is used particularly when the memory is recalled involuntarily and or when it is so intense that the person relives the experience, unable to fully recognize it as a memory and not something that is happening in real time. Yes, I think I agree with this because it's something I have had and sometimes still have experience from time to time for various reasons in my past. But the key to be able to live with this phenomena, I think anyway, is to know when it comes that it is a memory, a flash from the past, from an earlier situation that is triggered by something or someone in the here and now. This can be a hard thing to come to terms with if you haven't sorted through the thing that triggers the flashback. For example, sometimes when this happens to me, and it is sort of a funny or very special memory, and people ask me why I'm suddenly smiling or start to laugh, seemingly without any obvious reason, I just say, oh, it's nothing, just a blast from the past. And then people, they just look at me very, very funny, and I think, well, no, I'm not even going to try to explain this because they would probably not understand. But then again, come to think of it, maybe they will, but maybe they thinking, well, maybe I'm not alone, you know? Maybe we should talk about this more. But on the other hand, we, as I said in the first episode, we don't really know everyone. We don't know what experiences they have, and we certainly don't know they will react to certain things. What I think is funny may not be funny for them at all. So that you should be a little bit careful about that. Then again, there are some very difficult flashbacks, and I think those are the ones that people mostly think about, and those are from violence, from various threats to your life, or from war zones, or yeah, whatever it is that's very, very negative. It can be separation or whatever. And normally, when a situation years years ahead in the future happens, and you get this reaction that people really don't understand because they can't see the connection, that is a flashback. And if you haven't sorted it out yourself, maybe you start thinking that you're in a sort of different time zone, different era, different place. So, therefore, it's very important, I think, to try to handle it as soon as you realize that, okay, now this has happened. If it is some sort of trauma, loss of a parent, or whatever it is, that you do contact someone that can help you, and that you realize that this is a very real situation, actually, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. And many people, I think, may be ashamed about it, but really you should talk to a professional about this. You can. Someone once told me when I had those moments that all you can write it down in sort of a diary, not a normal diary, but write it down somewhere, and just read it later, or just get it out of your system. And then I started doing that, and it became easier and easier. And sometimes now, when I watch famous people in the media, I can see that, okay, something happened to this person, and because of the reaction, because of the behavior of this person in an interview or whatever it is, I can see that, all right, this person has unresolved issues. He or she should really talk to somebody. Maybe this reaction is because of a flashback that hasn't been resolved. I don't know if flashbacks can ever disappear. I have no idea, but one can certainly learn to live with them and control them in a way. I can't control when they come, but I can control how they affect me. And it's much like if you get a scar or something. First you bleed and it hurts like crazy, and you put a band-aid on it, or you go to the doctor and have it fixed and things. But in the end, you see that fainted scar there on your arm or whatever it is, and it stays with you. But it doesn't hinder you to live or use that limb. It doesn't affect you negatively necessarily, but it's there, and you just have to learn to live with it and accept it. And I think that may be the trick for a lot of people. And learning to accept things might be the most difficult things of all, I think. It could be a crime that happened to you. It could be a loss of somebody. It could be a war situation. It could be well, whatever, basically. But acceptance that it is there, it's not going to go away, but that it doesn't control you, you control you. And when you are at that point, I think it's easier to live and to get on with your life, to say, okay, it's there, but I'm controlling it. It's not controlling me. And it's not going to destroy my future or my now. The past is past. I can't undo it, but I can make something better of what's to come. Because somebody said to me once that the future haven't happened yet. It's not here yet. I mean, the past, that's gone. That has happened. The now is now. It's happening now, and the future, it's a big unknown. It's an unwritten book. It's the next page. You never know what it's going to be, and it is what it is, and you have some sort of control over it in some ways, not all the way, but in some ways, and you can control your emotions, I think, most of the time anyway. So a flashback, yeah, it can be something very negative, but it can also be something that you could see as a constructive thing, because then you know that when it gets lesser often and lesser in strength, then you know that it's not controlling you as much, and you are working through it every time, knowing or not knowing about it. That's a different thing. But anyways, and as I said, it could be happy, sad, and exciting emotions. And it is like memories, very strong memories, and sometimes it's, yeah, it just happens, and I think it happens to everyone, but not everyone thinks about happy sudden memories as flashbacks. That you think, oh, I just remembered something. It was so funny when I was a kid, and I went to the zoo, and oh, this and this happened. I don't think they think about that as flashbacks or involuntary recurrent memory. If they see a monkey at the zoo doing something extremely funny, and you start laughing, and you start telling this intense memory of something that happened when you was like 5, going to the zoo or something, well, it is a flashback, but people don't see it like that. But if you suddenly gets scared and starts crying without no real reason, as people would say, then you will be seen as a strange person, and oh, you have a negative flashback, oh, maybe you should see a shrink, and yada yada yada, a lot of things like that. And that's, I think, what is the what people don't think about really, but it is the same thing. It's sudden, involuntary, recurrent memory is intense, and people don't really see it as a normal reaction like that. But happy memories is more accepted, and exciting memories are more accepted in general. When you get this, oh, I just remembered this, oh, you just reminded me of this, and oh, I want to tell you about this and that, that's more accepted than it is like, oh god, I'm just feeling sad and I'm gonna cry and I'm sorry, I have to go. No, that's not accepted as much. Then they think that you're just strange and weird and something's wrong with you. And all of this is just a flashback. It could be something that should be handled, but then again, it could be also something that's not that severe, but it could be wrong place at wrong time, and you could feel embarrassed, and people may be staring at you, but it's nothing that strange. Anyways, Well, I think I have talked a lot about flashback and involuntary recurrent memory a long time now in this episode, and I think this is it for this time. I hope to see you again, to hear from you again in the next episode of Behind the Scenes with Sandra Frilund. Thank you. Bye bye.